Okay, we're moving on now to our penultimate pitch. This is Sylvain from PRAGMA Therapeutics. Good luck, Sylvain.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Sylvain Celanire. I'm CEO and co-founder of PRAGMA Therapeutics. It's a French-based company nearby Geneva on the French borders. We are developing new drugs to treat very severe stress-related disorders and hearing loss as well. We are very focused on traumatic-based memory and hearing loss approach at PRAGMA, and it's all about the protein that is linked to the two diseases. One of the first diseases that we are targeting is post-traumatic stress disorders. You have been hearing a lot of that in the press last year about the terrorist attack in Paris and in Brussels. We have a disease where there's a lack of innovation, there's a lack of drugs in the clinic for the past 10 years, 15 years, in order to treat all the patients suffering from traumatic brain and neuropsychiatry. The impact is very severe. As of today, the psychotherapy are working well, but you have to compare and you have to cope with all the resistance of the memory when you do the multiple sessions, very expensive and very traumatized for the people that you have to remove all these emotions. The other therapeutic approach are drugs. Although today, only antidepressants are approved by the FDA and the EMA to treat the depression of the patients, but not the core symptoms of the diseases. So there's a limitation in both psycho and pharmacotherapy as of today. The clinical pipeline is quite tight, only 2 compounds in phase 2. The first one is treating sleep disorders, so treating your nightmares, and the other one is an add-on to psychotherapy that has been not effective so far. The second indication that we are looking for is another kind of traumatic event. It's acoustic trauma, as inducing hearing loss, permanent disabilities of your hearing. It would be bilateral or unilateral. And as of today, there is not a single drug approved for treating hearing loss and tinnitus as well. There's hearing aids, there's implants that have been developed, but they are very uncomfortable for the people. And you remember as well that you are older and older with this kind of implants. As of today, in the clinical pipeline, there's only transthypanic injection drugs to treat hearing loss or tinnitus, very invasive, and you cannot do that with on-site or operational, for example, for the soldiers in the war zone. So we have a new concept that we have to approach with new treatment where there's no drug or few drugs effective on the market. Our therapeutic approach is linked to chemical neuromediators in the brain, in your brain, which is not glutamate. This particular receptor, mGlu7, is one of the 8 members of the class of receptors present in your brain. And this particular receptor has the capacity to be activated upon a huge burst of glutamate upon a stress event. The first one that we like to target, like PTSD, is that during a traumatic event, you have a huge increase in the brain in 3 main regions, and we have to decrease this imbalance created by dysfunction upon glutamatergic tones. We are aiming at treating free memories and traumatic memories extinction. The second aspect is to treat with the same drugs hearing loss, and the key fact that the mGlu7 receptors have been expressed in the inner ear, in all the nerves through the auditory systems. In addition, the gene GRM7 encoding mGlu7 has been shown in patients suffering from age-related hearing loss. So there's a major need for new approaches or innovative to prevent or treat hearing loss and tinnitus. So we are doing to inhibit this receptor, to prevent and to treat, and all is based on modifying the glutamate approach. Just to mention that all this approach has been supported by the French National Agency, ANR. $500,000 has been put on the project for the next 3 years. And we have announced for the hearing loss indication a major support from the UK charity Action on Hearing Loss for the next 3 years as well, in collaboration with a US university. as of today, what we have been delivered is new compounds that are acting and very specifically to this receptor. This compound is penetrating the brain, is very selective, safe, and one of the lead, PGT117, has been showing activity in a pharmacological model of PTSD. This particular model has been used because it's actually mimicking the human pathology in phase 1b patients. And we are discussing with Boston General Hospital in US to use this compound in further patients later on. We have been filing patent application covering composition of matter and therapeutic uses, broad application. And we are actually working on expanding the chemical libraries of PRAGMA. We are also doing PET tracers imaging to do target engagement and brain imaging systems for both for rat and human. And we're also doing, as of today, the proof of concept in rodent model of hearing loss, noise-inducing loss first, and also identifying biomarkers. We have been working in the field of this class of therapeutic classes for the past 15 years in neuroscience in European and biotech companies. We have been launching HIT program up to phase 2, human proof of concept in neuroscience, anxiety, schizophrenia, Alzheimer's disease, and Parkinson's disease. And we are back with very key leaders in the field from the US, from Europe, and also entrepreneur in the field of neuroscience. Our business model is an asset-centric. We have one target, 2 key indications, and in supporting major indication and orphan one. We are in a preclinical stage, and we are aiming to exit after the phase 2A proof of concept. The investment opportunity for the people and investors will be to support the preclinical development and the clinical phase 1 study of our lead compounds, and we aim to launch by 2019 phase 2A proof of concept in UN by the end of 2020. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much indeed, Sylvain. Fantastic presentation. Straight over to the jury.
Maybe? Yeah.
Oh, she.
What makes you think that the mGlu7 approach could make a difference, knowing the numbers of failures that has been happening in hearing loss, especially?
So, so that's true that hearing loss and tinnitus particularly are very challenging. I don't talk about age-related hearing loss where there have been failure as well. The difference that we have here in the receptor is expressed in the inner ear, in the cochlea, and on the hair cells, where there's completely the degeneration upon glutamate excitotoxicity. And our receptor can make the difference by preventing degeneration. What we are aiming to is to block the glutamate burst in the hair cells upon this excitotoxicity, capturing the glutamate and blocking the neurotransmission. That's true that mGlu7 is a new target, but that's the major fact that the gene is implicated in age-related hearing loss is the first. It has been replicated 4 times in European, Asian, and American population as a unique polymorphism in patients. So we have really to link the rational and the patients.
Can I have another question?
Just to finish one point. So then do you think you'll be able to select your patients based on this polymorphism in mGlu7?
That's one part of it. The other one will be to develop biomarkers. During the 3 course of the collaboration that we get with the Action on Hearing Loss Charity, we have a 3 years investigation of biomarkers at different levels. Will be chemical biomarkers. We have also fMRI and as well imaging studies through the auditory system, because there's also a component which is centrally in the brain, in particular for tinnitus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I have a similar question on the same line, because I'm quite convinced on the way you show a clinical validation for the tinnitus and even the rational background from a scientific point of view, very solid. It's a bit more confusing me what you want to do on the post-traumatic stress group of patients. So how do you suggest, how is the far you are with the clinical validation? How will you stratify a patient? How you will run this part of the project?
So that's true. The GM7 is not linked to PTSD. That's clearly compared to the hearing loss. For the patient, We can stratify the patient population. The first thing that the DSM-5 neuropsychiatry manual has been updated 2 years ago, and specifically for the PTSD field. It's now a pure indication. It's no longer an anxiety-like disorders. So all the endpoints and the rating scale in clinic has been updated, has been more precisely, and on the patient side, we can stratify the patient. We can have a cohort of only women that have been suffering from sexual abuse. We can have a cohort of Marine soldiers, women as well, that have been facing also difficulties on combat zone. And we can have also car crash accident-based population that has been very concise group of cohorts, and in particular the case in Toulouse and in Paris that are treating some patients with that. So we can stratify the patient, and that will be a huge increase in awareness and endpoints.
Okay, I'm afraid our time is up. Thank you very much for the questions. Sylvain, thank you very much.